So just find a comfortable position for you, no matter what, no matter where. Just begin to feel into this present moment, coming back to yourself, preparing yourself to enter this space with me. You can take this time to set an intention. How do you want, what's your intention to this time with me? And set an intention to allow yourself to be open to receiving the messages that will be coming forward. Or just take this moment to just sink in and release all the tension, any worries. I just started to roll my neck, little short rolls, and you can begin to do the same just to help us release so much tension. Like I definitely feel a lot of us, obviously including myself, hold so much tension in our shoulder area, the neck, especially with doing so many things virtually now. I just want to kind of like roll my shoulders back. Oh. Um, I want to apologize for the background today. It is out of my control. I think they're doing some sort of construction in my complex. So I do hope that it's not going to be so much of a distraction, but there are also birds out there and I can hear them, and hopefully you can hear them too, and then just concentrate on that noise. Thank you for tuning in and just sharing this space with me. I wanted tonight's talk to be grounded in or focused on the heart space. And I want to begin by sharing a quote by Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So, tonight specifically, I want to focus on the topic on committing to love and specifically practicing loving kindness. And hopefully, we can explore barriers we might have placed in this heart space. Um, Loving kindness is a Pali word for metta. And metta also means benevolence, kindness, um, goodwill, active interest in others. And metta is one of the four Brahma Viharas, which is also known as the immeasurables or the divine abodes, which helps us to find the heart's true home. So, how do we commit to lead with an open heart on a day-to-day basis? How do we plant the seeds to offer goodwill to ourselves and to others daily? And how do we every single day set intentions from the heart space? This space, this wonderful heart space that is meant to be pure, it's meant to be open, um, it's meant to have or pump with no conditions, right? But often whether it's intentional or unintentionally, we set barriers around this space. And it's hard for us to give and receive love unconditionally. So, right now, let's explore the conditions that may be in our heart space. So, you can begin by, again, you can soften your gaze, you can close your eyes, and just listen to the questions and feel into the heart space. You can even place your hand over your chest and just feel the rhythm of your heart beating. And the questions are, what is the quality of your heart? And what does love mean to you? Is it based on conditions or is it unconditional? Is your heart closed or is it open? I'll read that again. What is the quality of your heart? What does it mean to love, or what does love mean to you? Is it based on conditions or is it unconditional? Is your heart closed or is it open? And allow yourself to actually sit with these questions. You can journal. You can sit with them, answer them mindfully, or explore your internal world as you ask these questions to yourself, or read the questions again if you're writing them down in your journal. I want to share a short paragraph from The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. And very short paragraph. Love is unconditional. Fear is full of conditions. In the track of fear, I love you if you let me control you, if you are good to me, if you fit into the image I make for you. I create an image of the way you should be, and because you are not and never will be the image, I judge you because of that and find you guilty. Many times I feel ashamed of you because you are not what I want you to be. If you don't fit that image I create, you embarrass me, you annoy me. I have no patience at all with you. I'm just pretending kindness. In the track of love, there is no if, there are no conditions. I love you for no reason, with no justification. I love you the way you are, and you are free to be the way you are. If I don't like the way you are, then I better be with someone who is the way I like her to be. We don't have the right to change anyone else, and no one else has the right to change us. If we are going to change, it is because we want to change because we don't want to suffer any longer. Woo, that was a word. A word. Comparing love and fear, unconditional and conditions. For me, understanding unconditional love, it definitely had to begin with me. I had to learn how to love myself unconditionally. I had to learn to love all the aspects of self that I claim that I need to fix, every single part of it. I had to hold compassion for everything that was arising within my internal world and external world and still love me no matter what. Because of these practices and this understanding of unconditional love, it shifted my internal behavior and internal dialogue, which these internal dialogues actually creates the conditions of our external speech and actions. Which brings up my next question. What are we saying to ourselves? What are we saying to ourselves every day? What are we saying about ourselves every day? Are we leading with love for self? And we start with ourselves. Are we leading with love for ourselves? Are we practicing mindful speech with ourselves and others? Do we allow ourselves and others to be seen and attended to? And are we holding space for ourselves and others with compassion? Again, with these questions, we can sit with them and reflect, journal, do everything we need to do to fully answer these questions with the most open heart possible. We can lead from the heart. We can begin to practice daily off and off the cushion, loving kindness. To have this sense of love and generosity that's super unconditional. Love is an expression of abundance and generosity. Love is non-duality. But like the paragraph mentioned in the book, this idea of love gets misconstrued by fear, and we probably are not even recognizing it. Because let's take a step back. When we place conditions on loving something, someone, what are the roots of those conditions? Is it safe to ask or to assume that as we peel those layers of conditions and get to the core, will there be fear there? Is fear the root of it all? I spoke about fear in my last class and how it is, for the most part, the root of a lot of our suffering. So, what does it mean to practice loving kindness or metta? But first, let's explore what it's not. I give you an example. Last year, I was getting to know someone, dating this person. Um, Immediately, I felt this weird, uh, I felt the conditions of love, and it didn't feel good. This person not accepted me for who I am. And in order for me to be loved by this person, I had to look a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain way, cook a certain way, do certain things. I couldn't be myself. The businesses that I had to get dissolved. I could only focus on that person. And I tried to reason with the person like, wait, this isn't love. Like, why can't I be who I want to be and I just be accepted? And it was just a straight no. And that's okay, right? I mean, I'm making it sound very clean, but there was a lot of like turmoil in that whole dynamic. It was really upsetting. And there was a form of mental abuse that I was experiencing. And I have never experienced something like that before. It kind of felt like very cultish. And it was so different for me. It was so different. And I had to heal from that. I had to recover. I had to go into my own space and figure out all over again what self-love means and what it means to have this unconditional love for myself. And then eventually, which is the difficult part, having this unconditional love for the person that actually harmed me. So, with that being said, to understand loving kindness and metta and leading with an open heart is to understand what it is not. And there are near and far enemies of metta or loving kindness. The near enemies of loving kindness are attachments, this inability to not being able to let go, setting conditions, tallying what you or that someone else is doing for you. Like, oh, I did this for you, I did that for you, and you can't do this and you can't do that. Like, that is a form of near enemy. Um, Setting conditions, I said that. Selfish possessiveness, right? And then the far enemies of loving kindness um, are anger, aversion, ill will. And there was a part of my experience with that person where they were really expressing ill will for me via text, verbally. It was just, I've never encountered someone like that in my entire life. I didn't even know that it can exist in my reality, me. So there was a form of like this confusion of how I even attracted that. But I had to learn to forgive myself because I put so much guilt on myself and I was talking bad on myself and maybe also even trying to like justify this action towards myself. Really thinking, wait, do I deserve this? Maybe because I was, you know, living a certain lifestyle. Maybe this is what's happening, blah, blah, blah. It was just very brainwashing. And I had to come back to myself, and I had to practice this love and kindness, and learn how to open my heart up again and receive love. In practicing loving kindness, I can attest that these practices will definitely dissolve those near and far enemies. It can dissolve it from your heart. It can dissolve it from your system. And it does take great practice to do that. But when you do it, whether it's on the cushion or off the cushion, to yourself and to others, you begin to feel super liberated and free. You start to feel moments, and maybe more than just a moment, of peace. A quote by Maya Angelou. She says, "I'm grateful to have been loved and to be loved now and to be able to love, because that liberates. Love liberates. It doesn't just hold. That's ego. Love liberates." Loving kindness can truly liberate you. It can liberate the heart mind. It can liberate you from a fear body. It can liberate you from a conditioned state of mind when it comes to love. It is in this practice that we begin to, or deeply, nourish our inner sanctuary. It is this practice that allows us to return to our home base in with more grace, with more openness. It allows us to be able to come home and tend to that home and feed ourselves. And once we start to feed ourselves, that love and abundance begins to overflow. There's no selfishness, there's no fear to hold on to and contract. It overflows. And you're able to give this loving kindness now from yourself to others. So where do we start? Who do we love? And where do we hold this loving kindness? Traditionally, we start with self-metta, or self-loving kindness, or loving kindness towards the self. And for some of us, starting with the self is like, yeah, I'm ready to start with ourselves. This is it. This is self-love. This is my journey. This is my time. And for another part of us, or for some of us, it is a very challenging place to start. But traditionally, we do start with ourselves. And we may find, as we're practicing loving kindness, that you probably notice that it's not as challenging, or it's probably rather easy to offer this loving kindness to a loved one or a benefactor. And then you can also find, as you continue to journey the practice of loving kindness, how difficult it will be to offer this love, or extend this love and kindness to someone who has harmed you or your family in any way. And on a societal level, it can even be difficult to send this loving kindness to a politician, to, maybe certain police officers, just things that are happening in society, things that we are not oblivious to see that there are human beings causing so much harm and have so much hate. That could be very difficult to send loving kindness to. And then the goal, ultimately, through this practice of loving kindness, is to send it to all beings, and to recognize that we are all connected, and we all belong, which can be difficult to understand and to fathom for some. To extend that love, to know that you belong, and you belong and you are deserving to be loved, to give love, because giving and receiving are both beautiful gifts. But going back to the self, again, it could be challenging for some of us, yet it is truly this practice for love, or this practice of love for oneself, that truly is the starting point in transforming the world. And I know so many of us have read this before and heard it before, and it may seem like changes aren't being done, but there are more and more people really truly grasping this idea of self-love on a deeper level, and understanding that they have to do this work. And this is where we are cutting these intergenerational traumas. We are releasing from those things, those pains that we've been holding on to for so long. It starts with us. And from the love of ourselves, for loving ourselves, we can truly not only liberate ourselves and have this sense of freedom and peace, but we can extend that to others. The love gives us the strength and the capacity to hold compassion, not just for ourselves, but for other people. And I want to read that again from Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So let's explore, what are the barriers that are between us and love? What are the barriers that are between yourself and love? Why is it hard to love yourself in an unconditional way? To, for one whole day, not utter any bad speech on yourself. You know, like, and it's something even small, like if you make a mistake, oh, I'm stupid. No, no, no. That gets recorded inside. So how do we practice this mindful speech daily? And here's why it's also important to start with self. Because most of us are not practicing mindful speech with ourselves. Like I mentioned before, just something as small as calling yourself stupid, or looking in the mirror and feeling like you need to change something about yourself. I mean, sometimes even myself, I look and I'm like, I want to like get veneers or something, change my teeth, or finding something to complain about, right? And honestly, I'm experimenting with myself like this. I've gone so far a whole year without wearing like foundation and stuff, and there's not to say that there's something wrong with wearing makeup. For me and my personal experience, I felt like I needed it. Like if I felt like I wasn't pretty without it. And I noticed those internal behaviors, and that's important too. That is so important to recognize any behaviors that is detrimental to your spiritual growth or personal development, or that can be stagnant to your self-love journey. It is also important to practice with self first, so we can understand when we're having the self-judging mind. Um, to understand when we are constantly in this fight or flight mode and in our fear body, or constantly contracted, right? Because we feel like that's the way to protect ourselves. And we hold on to trauma, which is a big one. We hold on to trauma. We compare ourselves to other people. We want and we want and we desire and we desire. And although, as I mentioned in other classes, desire may not be the problem, but it's the attachment to the desire and not feeling happy if you don't have those desires. But through the practice of loving kindness, we can feel these things beginning to release in some form of way, and we begin to open up to this heart space. as we begin to open in this heart space and recognize all the stuff that we're holding on to, you begin to feel. You may feel grief, you may feel numbness, you may feel guilt, you may feel a lot of things, and feel those feels. Feel the feels so you can heal. I'm telling you, it is part of it. If you're angry, you can shout and be angry and cry and maybe punch the pillow a few times, whatever. And then hold yourself with compassion and thank yourself for allowing yourself to release that. Release it. When you begin to understand your wounds and your traumas and the fears, and you hold yourself with that compassion, you begin to understand others and their wounds and their traumas and their fears. That's key. And going back to the person that I was dating last year, through the practice of loving kindness, after understanding everything within myself, I was able to recognize his traumas. And I was able to send him loving kindness. What a practice. What a practice. But before I was able to do that, I was just holding on to so much anger. It was as if I started to live for him now. I wanted him to see that I could thrive without him. I wanted him to see that everything that he wished upon me was not going to come true. I cared about what he thought, and I started to just like live around that. That's a trap. Trap. I broke free from that because I sent him love. I forgave him. I sent him love and goodwill and want the best for him, no matter what has happened between our time together. That's liberating. And once we develop the capacity to love parts of ourselves that has been dismissed, that has been hidden, the pain that we've been hiding, once we begin to have this capacity to love ourselves and all the wounds and the compassion for all of that, it just changes the game. It does. This practice and these acts, these silent acts of goodwill and acts of service to others, awakened me to a path towards freedom. I had to learn to let go of the attachment to pain, um, releasing my attachment to guilt, releasing my attachment to desire. And because of this ability to release, I feel less heavy. I'm traveling light. And because of that, now I have room to practice gratitude every day. And I recognize that I live in abundance, right? We live in abundance. We are abundant. And I also want to stress and let you all know that this practice doesn't mean to be oblivious to things, meaning like this is not a spiritual bypass. This is not about being overly optimistic. Rather, it's about holding space even through the unpleasant moments, finding that equanimity, being balanced and grounded through the pleasant unpleasantness, the joy, the sadness, the grief, the loss. All of it makes up life, right? And so we're able to still find this peace because, some people may think or assume that this practice will just make them full of bliss all the time. Everything's all great. And although that is a great attitude to have and visualize, the truth is there can be chaos, and that's part of life. But we can still hold kindness for ourselves and kindness for other people and still give and offer this love to other people regardless of what's happening. This is truly how we understand unconditional love and how we can receive it and extend it. But it starts with us. I want to share from the teachings of Buddha um, this Metta Sutta part of it. And when you come to a space of loving yourself unconditionally, loving your loved ones unconditionally, loving all beings unconditionally, you get to understand what is being said here. May all beings be happy. May they live in safety and joy. All living beings, whether weak or strong, tall, stout, average or short, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. Let no one deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm to another. As a mother watches over her child, willing to risk her own life to protect her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, suffusing the world, the whole world, with unobstructive, loving kindness. So let's practice with self love, self metta. And let's set the timer. And at this moment, you can begin to find a comfortable position. And whether you're sitting on a chair or cushion, just begin to sit and feel relaxed within your body, making sure that your shoulders are straight, good posture, not too rigid. Allow your hands to rest wherever feels comfortable for you. And you can begin to soften your gaze or completely close your eyes. Settling into awareness of the body, noticing your breath, feeling into what is happening here and now, and allowing yourself to be open to whatever experience you may have in the body. Noticing what the breath feels like or where it's easiest to detect the breath. On the inhale, maybe you feel like the tickly feeling on the back of your throat. On the exhale, maybe you feel a cool breeze on the top of your lip. Or maybe you feel in the rising and falling of your chest or stomach area. In this practice of loving kindness, we all have the capacity within us to have this kindness, this goodwill for our friends, for our families, for ourselves. And we have the strength to start with ourselves unconditionally. We have the strength to open our hearts, the strength to lead with the heart and have compassion fully. and gracefully. And as we begin to develop this loving kindness for ourselves, we allow our hearts to crack open, to have this feeling of tenderness. I invite you to remember a pleasant time in your life. It can be a time when you were generous to yourself or someone was generous to you. And what does that feel like? You might recall a natural desire to be happy. Where is that place where you felt this great happiness? You can even go back to a moment when you were a child. Any memory that comes to mind where you were just a happy child, and sit with that. And let's let's explore our memory to when we were young adults. What can you remember as a young adult that made you so happy and not suffering? Now we are here in the present moment. What memory do you have where you were happy? And if it's difficult to find the place of goodness or happiness in this moment, in this practice, then strive to look at yourself through someone else's eyes, someone else who sees the goodness in you, someone else who notices when you're happy. And what would that person think of you? And what does that person love about you? What do you love about you? That brings a soft, tender feeling. Stay with that and notice how your body is feeling. Maybe you feel some warmth or heat on your face. Maybe you feel like smiling. Resting with this feeling of open and unconditional love for a few minutes, letting yourself bask in the energy of loving kindness. Breathing in, breathing out. Allowing yourself to feel this peace and acceptance of your love for yourself. Now I'll be offering guidant phrases. Um, you can repeat these guidant phrases to yourself mindfully, or you can alter them however it feels right for you. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be held in loving kindness. May I feel connected and calm. May I accept myself just as I am. May I be happy. May I know the natural joy of being alive. May I be free from all pain, internal and external pain. May I feel connected and calm. May I be at peace. May I accept myself just as I am. May I be happy. Thank you all for your loving attention. And may you continue to be at peace and happy and calm and enjoy being alive. Peace.